You don't wake up one day and suddenly love discipline. That's a myth. Nobody, no matter how successful they look, started out enjoying the hard things. What actually happens is quieter, almost invisible. Your brain gets trained, slowly, repeatedly, strategically. And once you understand how that training works, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like power. Right now, your brain is wired for comfort. It's not broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. Avoid pain, seek pleasure, conserve energy. That's why scrolling feels easy. That's why starting feels heavy. That's why quitting feels like relief. Your brain isn't trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you. The problem is, it's using outdated rules in a modern world. So the goal isn't to fight your brain. That's where most people fail. They try to force discipline with pure willpower, like pushing a car uphill with no engine. It works for a few minutes, then you burn out. What you need is leverage. You need to reprogram the system itself so discipline becomes the path of least resistance. And it starts with one simple shift. Stop asking, how do I become more disciplined? And start asking, how do I make discipline feel rewarding? Because your brain runs on reward loops. Everything you do, every habit, every action is tied to a loop. Cue, action, reward. If the reward is strong enough, your brain locks it in. If it's weak or delayed, your brain resists. This is why junk food beats healthy food, why social media beats studying, why comfort beats growth. Not because they're better, but because they deliver instant rewards. So if you want to trick your brain into liking discipline, you don't remove the reward, you move it. You attach reward directly to the disciplined action. Not after, not later, during. You make the process itself satisfying. You're studying? Don't wait for grades to feel good. Pair it with something your brain already loves. Music, a clean setup, a specific environment that feels different from everything else. You're working out? Don't wait for results months later. Focus on the immediate feeling, the burn, the movement, the shift in energy. You're building something? Don't wait for success. Track progress visually so your brain sees wins in real time. You're not lying to yourself. You're translating effort into a language your brain understands. Because your brain doesn't care about goals. It cares about signals. And right now, discipline sends the wrong signal. It feels like loss, like restriction, like effort with no immediate payoff. So your brain avoids it. You change that, and everything flips. Now here's where most people mess up. They go too big. They decide, from today, I'll wake up at 5 a.m., work out for an hour, read 50 pages, eat perfectly, stay focused all day. That sounds powerful. It feels like control. But to your brain, it feels like threat. Too much change at once triggers resistance. Your brain pushes back hard. That's why you start strong for a few days, then crash. Real discipline is built the opposite way. Small wins, repeated consistently, until they become automatic. You don't need motivation for automatic. You don't need willpower for automatic. You just do it. So instead of chasing intensity, you lower the entry point. You make discipline so easy it feels almost pointless. 5 minutes of work, 1 page read, 10 push-ups, 1 small action. And here's the trick. You don't stop because it's easy. You start because it's easy. Once you start, momentum takes over. Your brain shifts from resistance to engagement. And suddenly, what felt impossible feels manageable. This is how you bypass procrastination. Not by fighting it, but by making it irrelevant. Because procrastination isn't laziness, it's friction. Reduce the friction, and the behavior changes automatically. Now let's go deeper. Your brain is always watching what you do and building an identity around it. Not what you say, not what you plan, what you repeat. Every action is a vote. You skip work, your brain logs it. This is someone who avoids hard things. You show up, even for 5 minutes, your brain logs it. This is someone who follows through. And over time, those votes stack. until your identity shifts. And once your identity changes, discipline stops being something you force and starts being something you are. That's the real goal. Not, I need discipline, but I'm a disciplined person. Because identity drives behavior far more than motivation ever will. You don't debate brushing your teeth, it's just who you are. That's where you want discipline to live. Automatic, unquestioned. So every time you act with discipline, even in the smallest way, you reinforce that identity, and your brain starts to align with it. Now here's something most people never realize. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. You can have the strongest mindset in the world, but if your environment is full of distractions, your brain will default to them. Because again, your brain follows the path of least resistance. So you don't rely on strength. You redesign the path. Make distractions harder to access. Make discipline easier to start. Phone out of reach. Work tools ready. Clear space. Defined triggers. You want to study? Sit in a place that only signals focus. You want to write? Open your document before you even think about starting. You remove decisions, because every decision costs energy, and discipline fails when energy runs low. But systems don't fail. Systems carry you when motivation disappears. And that's the difference between people who stay consistent and people who keep restarting. One relies on feeling ready. The other builds a system where readiness doesn't matter. Now let's talk about discomfort, because discipline always involves it. There's no version of growth without some level of discomfort. But here's the twist. Discomfort isn't the enemy. Unfamiliar discomfort is. Your brain resists what it doesn't recognize. So when you first start something hard, it feels overwhelming. But repetition changes that. What once felt uncomfortable becomes normal. What felt hard becomes baseline. This is how people become disciplined, not by eliminating discomfort, but by expanding what they're comfortable with. They train their brain to see effort as normal. And once effort feels normal, discipline feels easy. So instead of avoiding discomfort, you lean into it in controlled doses. You expose your brain to it regularly, not enough to break you, just enough to stretch you. And over time, your tolerance grows. Now here's a powerful shift. Stop focusing on outcomes. Focus on standards. Outcomes are distant, uncertain, slow. Standards are immediate, controlled, repeatable. Instead of, I want to succeed, you define, I show up daily. I finish what I start. I do the work regardless of how I feel. These are standards. And when you live by standards, discipline becomes non-negotiable. Because it's no longer about chasing results. It's about maintaining identity. Now let's address something real. You will fail sometimes. You will miss days. You will lose momentum. That's not a problem. The problem is the story you attach to it. Most people miss once, then spiral. I messed up. I'm not consistent. I'll start again later. That thinking kills discipline, because it turns a single miss into a pattern. But disciplined people treat failure differently. They don't make it emotional. They make it mechanical. Miss once, reset immediately. No drama, no overthinking. Just back to the system. Because consistency isn't about being perfect. It's about returning quickly. That's the real skill. And your brain learns from that too. It learns that discipline isn't fragile. It's stable. Now let's go even deeper. Your brain is constantly predicting your future behavior based on your past. If your history is full of quitting, your brain expects you to quit. If your history is full of following through, your brain expects consistency. So you're not just building habits, you're rewriting expectations. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you increase trust. And once that trust builds, discipline becomes easier. Because your brain stops resisting. It starts cooperating. Now here's the part nobody likes hearing. There is no shortcut. There is no hack that replaces repetition. Everything we've talked about still requires doing the work. But the difference is this: you're no longer fighting your brain. You're working with it. You're aligning reward, identity, environment, and systems. So discipline stops feeling like force and starts feeling like flow. And when that happens, something powerful shifts. You don't need motivation anymore. You don't wait for the right mood. You don't rely on bursts of energy. You just execute, quietly, consistently, without negotiation. And from the outside, it looks like you've become disciplined. But from the inside, it just feels normal. That's the goal. Not intensity, not perfection. Normal. Because once discipline feels normal, it becomes permanent. And that's how you win.